Okay, today we're going to look at parallel lines and their reasons. You may have seen them before, but I'm going to try and go through it carefully and make sure we have it down pat. Maybe you can, maybe you'll figure it out for the first time, but let's see. Okay, when two lines are always the same distance apart and they point in exactly the same direction, we say they're parallel. When you take a line and it cuts across two parallel lines, it's called a transversal. And there are three different types of angles with parallel lines. The first one's called corresponding angles. These two lines are parallel. We say that the angle, there are four sets of corresponding angles that are created. Now, Mrs. Vall, she had a way of thinking about this as if it was sort of like a garden and a bunch of houses that were all set up and the houses were all the same, that they looked in the garden. If somebody made a flower garden here, right here in this spot, well, that would correspond to the same spot over in this garden. Those angles are exactly the same, they're equal, and they're called corresponding angles because they're in the same position. Well, the green dots here are corresponding angles as well, and the red ones and the gray ones. So if you know one angle, you've got the other one. It's exactly equal. That they're equal, and that's called corresponding angles. Now, the same set of parallel lines, you have a transversal. The angles on either side of this transversal, they're called alternate angles, and they're always exactly the same if these lines are parallel. You have two parallel lines, the transversal creates two alternate angles, and they're always equal. Now, the last one is if you have two angles on the inside, they're called co-interior angles. They're not equal, they add up to 180. So if one's 60, the other's 120. If one's 100, the other's 80, because they have to add up to 180, just like a triangle and the angles in a straight line. There's two other alternate angles. You know, you have these two on either side. You have these two are alternate angles and they're equal. These are called, they're also equal. They're called alternate exterior angles and they're equal. These angles here on the other side, they're co-interior angles. Let's just take a look at a question here. This first question that we're going to give out, maybe people tried these before, but I don't think a lot of us understood it. So if I say fill in the corresponding angles, if that's 120 degrees, this is the corresponding place that's the same across these two parallel lines. This is the corresponding 60-degree angle. The first questions are just about doing that. The second questions ask you to find X, Y, and Z in that order. And because it's parallel lines here, we're going to use parallel line reasons here. So X is 74 degrees because of alternate angles. Those are called alternate angles, so they must be equal. Y must be 74 degrees because they correspond. They're in the same place. Corresponding angles. By the way, you have to write down that AB is parallel to CD. That's the reason you can use this corresponding and alternate angles. If you don't, you can end up with no credit. Now, if that's 74, Z's got to be 106 degrees. And the parallel reason is that the co-interior angles have to add up to 180. So it must be 74. Z must be 106. There's other ways to figure out Z, but that's how you use a parallel reason to do it. And that's all for today.